The Curse of the Silent Forest. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the small village of Eldwyn. A chill swept through the air and the villagers hurried to bolt their doors. No one dared to stay outside after dusk, for the silent forest loomed at the edge of their home, dark, brooding and cursed. Legends whispered of the forest's origin. Centuries ago, a powerful sorceress named Isolde had lived in harmony with the woods. Her magic nurtured the trees, and the animals revered her as a guardian. But when the king's men razed her home in their greed for timber, Isolde cursed the land with her dying breath. The forest fell into an eternal stillness, its trees growing twisted and gnarled, and its shadows deepening unnaturally. Anyone who entered was said to disappear, their screams swallowed by an impenetrable silence. One fateful evening, a young boy named Lorien vanished while playing near the forest's edge. His mother's anguished cries echoed through the village, but no one dared to search for him. Fear of the forest's curse paralysed them. "He's gone," whispered old Mara, the village herbalist, her voice quivering. "The forest has taken him." Lorien's older sister, Ilara, refused to accept this. Her bond with her brother was unbreakable. Armed with a lantern, her father's old sword, and an unshakable determination, she resolved to enter the silent forest to bring him back. The villagers begged her to reconsider, warning her of the legends, but her resolve was as firm as the mountains. The forest was a world unto itself, shrouded in mist and silence so profound it felt oppressive. Ilara stepped across the threshold, her lantern's flickering light casting eerie shadows. Each step seemed to amplify the stillness, the absence of life unsettling. The usual rustle of leaves and chirping of birds was absent. Only the sound of her own breathing accompanied her. She walked for hours, her footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of moss. Along the way she found traces of others who had ventured before her. A rusted helmet, a torn satchel, and a diary whose final entry read, "The silence is alive. It knows me." As the forest deepened, the trees seemed to lean toward her, their branches twisting into skeletal arms. Her lantern flickered, and shadows moved just beyond its light. Still she pressed on, driven by the faint footprints she believed belonged to Lorien. In a clearing bathed in faint moonlight, Ilara encountered a massive wolf with silver fur and eyes that glowed like embers. It stood as still as the trees, its gaze piercing. She raised her sword, trembling, but the wolf made no move to attack. Instead, it spoke. "You seek the boy," it said, its voice deep and resonant. "He is not lost, but trapped. The sorceress's curse binds him and all who wander here. To free him, you must break the curse." Ilara lowered her sword, her fear replaced by hope. "How do I break it?" she asked. The wolf's eyes softened as though it understood the weight of her quest. "Find Isolde's heart. It lies hidden in the forest, guarded by shadows. Only a soul, pure of purpose, can claim it. But be warned, the trials ahead will test every fibre of your being." With that, the wolf turned and disappeared into the trees, leaving Ilara alone once more. Her grip tightened on her sword as she prepared to face whatever lay ahead. The forest seemed to grow darker as Ilara ventured deeper. The air grew colder, and shadowy figures emerged from the trees. They whispered to her, their voices like the rustling of dead leaves. They spoke her fears, her doubts, and her deepest insecurities, trying to break her resolve. The first trial tested her courage. Ilara came upon a bottomless chasm, and on the other side stood a vision of Lorien calling out to her. His cries were heart-wrenching, but she realised it was a trap. With tears in her eyes, she turned away, refusing to leap. The second trial tested her wisdom. She entered a maze of mirrors, each reflection showing a different version of herself. Some were powerful and regal, others monstrous and deformed. The reflections spoke, tempting her with promises of strength and power. But she remembered the wolf's words and smashed the mirrors with her sword, shattering the illusions. The third trial tested her compassion. A shadowy figure resembling her mother appeared, pleading for help. Though it was difficult, Ilara saw through the ruse. Her heart focused on her brother. "You cannot deceive me," she said, her voice firm. The shadow dissolved and the path ahead became clear. Finally, she reached a hollow tree with a faint glow emanating from within. Inside, she found a pulsating crystal, Isolde's heart. It was warm to the touch, radiating both power and sorrow. As Ilara grasped the crystal, the forest erupted into motion. The silence shattered with a deafening roar as shadows coalesced into the form of Isolde herself. Her spectral figure towered above Ilara, her eyes blazing with fury. "You dare disturb my slumber?" Isolde hissed, her voice echoing through the forest. Ilara held the crystal aloft. "Your curse has brought suffering to countless innocents. Release them, or I will destroy your heart." Isolde's laughter was cold and bitter. "You think to undo centuries of pain so easily? Prove your worth, child." The battle was fierce and relentless. Isolde conjured spectral beasts and vines that lashed out at Ilara. The young woman fought valiantly, dodging and parrying with precision. Her lantern's light kept the shadows at bay, while her sword cleaved through Isolde's manifestations. Finally, with a cry of determination, Ilara thrust her sword into the crystal. It shattered in a burst of light, illuminating the forest. Isolde let out a mournful wail as her form dissolved into the ether. The forest groaned and shifted. The twisted trees straightened, their leaves turning vibrant green. The oppressive silence lifted, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves and the songs of birds. The shadows dissolved, and the spirits trapped within were freed, their forms ascending into the sky like wisps of smoke. Lorien emerged from behind a tree, dazed but unharmed. Ilara dropped her sword and ran to him, embracing him tightly. Tears streamed down her face as relief washed over her. When they returned to Eldwyn, the villagers were astounded. The silent forest was no longer a place of fear, but of beauty. Its trees stood tall and majestic, their canopy dappled with sunlight. The villagers celebrated Ilara's bravery, planting a grove in Isolde's memory and vowing to respect the balance between nature and man. Ilara's tale became legend, a story told for generations about the girl who faced her fears, broke the curse, and restored harmony to the silent forest.